Today is Thursday, April the 9th. It's also the day of Holy Week that is known as Maundy Thursday. The word Maundy comes from the word mandate, which means to command. So this is the day that we gather around the story of Jesus' final meal shared with his disciples, as well as the commandment that he gave to them to love one another as he had loved them. We begin, as we always do, lighting the candle to remind us of the presence of Christ with us here and now, with us all in all places and at all times, but especially in this Holy Week, guiding us on our journey. The reading for today is John 13, verses 1 to 17, and 31b to 35. And this is one of those stories that you can enter into fully with your imagination. So you can imagine that you are present in this scene. And I invite you to do that now as I read this story to you. You might want to either pause the video and carry on with your imagination after you have observed Jesus washing the disciples' feet, to then imagine that he is washing your feet and to feel how that feels, that intimate relationship of receiving from him. Or you might want to come back to that at a later time. You also might want to pause the video and to journal, or to have a colloquy, a conversation with Jesus or with Mother Mary about your experience. Now, before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him. And during supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, got up from the table, and took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around himself. Then he began to pour into a basin, and began to pour water into a basin, and began to wash the disciples' feet, and to wipe them with a towel that was tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered, "You do not know now what I am doing, but later you will understand." Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "One who has bathed does not need to wash except for the feet, but is entirely clean. And you are clean, though not all of you," for he knew who was to betray him. For this reason he said, "Not all of you are clean." After he had washed their feet, had put on his robe, and returned to the table, he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have set you an example, that you should do as I have done to you. Very truly I tell you, servants are not greater than their master, nor are messengers greater than the one who sent them." Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and will glorify him at once. Little children, I am with you only a little longer. You will no longer you will look for me, and you will look for me, and as I said to the Jews, so now I say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You should also love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. We probably all know people whose primary motivation for serving others has more to do with getting their own needs met than it does with serving the other person, whether they're aware of that or not. We all know people who seek love and affirmation through their service of others. And we probably all fall into that category ourselves at one time or another. I always think a good question to ask ourselves when we've made the casserole and we're about to deliver it to our neighbors who are in need is whether or not our neighbors really do need the casserole, or whether we have the greater need to be seen, to be caring for them. It's a question that we often talk about in our Caring Connections team as well. What are we trying to do? Are we trying to fix another person? Do they really need and want to be fixed? Or do we just need to be present to them? We sometimes can have act out of our need. Sometimes our need for human contact in these days. Sometimes we act out of our needs to have our egos stroked. Sometimes we act out of our need to take care of things because we just can't trust that someone will be okay if we don't take care of them. We probably also have known people who are so needy that we're almost repelled from them, that they kind of drain the life out of us. And maybe it's also true that we've all had circumstances in our own lives where we've gone looking for love, not necessarily for the right reasons or in the right places. That old song, looking for love in all the wrong places. The hallmark of the Christian faith, certainly according to this passage of Scripture, is about loving one another. It isn't about whether we go to church on Sunday mornings. It's about whether we love one another and how we love one another. And the way that we're meant to love one another is how we first have been loved. So the catch of that is that we can't love others well if we don't know what it is to be loved ourselves. Jesus says to Peter, "Unless I wash you, you have no share of me." In other words, unless you have received love from me, you have no share of me. It's not unless I have loved you, it's unless you have received love from me, then you have no share in me. And so there's meant to be a kind of a beautiful flow, like a seamless flow of receiving and giving love, receiving and giving love, giving it out, knowing that it will come back to us again, not giving it out so that we will have our needs met, but giving it out, and then somehow in an odd kind of way, having our needs met. There's a difference, isn't there? Giving it out and having our needs met isn't the same as giving it out so that our needs will be met. Or receiving it, not so that we can have it, but receiving it and being fulfilled in receiving it, not grasping at it. Whether we are giving love or whether we are receiving love, there is something in both of those actions, giving and receiving, and the rhythm and flow of that is at the heart of the Christian path. It's at the heart of this holiest of days. It's at the heart of this holiest of weeks. Let's close in singing together. Hold us in your grace, O God. Hold us in your grace. Hold us in your grace, O God. Hold us in your grace. Hold us in your grace. Hold us in your grace. Hold us in your grace, O God. Hold us in your grace. Hold us in your grace, O God. Hold us in your grace. Hold us in your grace. Hold us in your grace. May you indeed be held in the love and the grace of God this Holy Thursday and throughout this Holy Weekend. Amen.